We are exploring a phenomenon today. A film so perfectly constructed, so woven into the fabric of popular culture that it's almost impossible to discuss it without someone quoting a famous line right back at you.
Mm-hmm.
We are, of course, talking about the 1987 fantasy adventure comedy classic, The Princess Bride.
And we're here to give you a shortcut, really, to being truly well-informed about this movie. Our goal isn't just to, recount the story of Wesley and Buttercup.
Right.
That fairy tale narrative, in a way, is just the wrapping paper. Our mission is to look beneath that surface, to analyze the decades-long, remarkable history of its production.
And the casting, which was just so meticulous.
Exactly. The casting that brought these iconic characters to life, and most importantly, why a film that was only a modest success when it first opened has, over time, cemented its status as one of the greatest and most rewatchable films of the 1980s.
That's the crucial analysis for us today. Understanding the mechanics of how this seemingly simple story captured the world's imagination and why, decades later, it remains so incredibly relevant. It's constantly adapting to new media.
It is. And the foundation of its strength lies in what we might call its structural ingenuity.
What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, for anyone unfamiliar, the film uses a postmodern narrative frame. This is really the key insight.
Okay.
The film isn't just a fairy tale. It's a story about a fairy tale being told. It's a grandfather reading the book to the sick grandson.
Right, that framing device.
And that structure allows the film to self-reference, to comment on traditional fairy tale tropes, and to be, simultaneously sincere and ironic. It invites you, the audience, into the story, making you part of the magic. And that choice is just fundamental to its immortality.
We want to grasp the facts that explain that immortality, starting with the fact that this movie almost never happened at all. Okay, let's unpack this journey, because the path from William Goldman's 1973 novel to the screen in 1987 was, well, it was less of a smooth road and more of a decade-and-a-half-long historical obstacle course.
It really was. It was just strewn with failed attempts. The sheer perseverance required to finally bring this script to life is genuinely astonishing.
And it really highlights how challenging adaptation can be.
Especially when a source novel is already so beloved and has such a unique and challenging tone. So Goldman, who was already this acclaimed screenwriter, first sold the film rights to 20th Century Fox way back in 1973.
73, so a long time before the movie came out.
A very long time. And that deal was substantial for the era. It was $500,000 for the rights and for him to write the screenplay himself.
And it did progress quite far initially, didn't it? There was a prestigious director attached.
There was. Richard Lester, who is known for directing the Beatles films and the Three Musketeers, he was signed on to direct.
Yeah.
But then corporate turbulence struck.
The kind of thing that just sinks projects in Hollywood.
Exactly. The head of production at Fox was abruptly fired, which immediately put the entire project on indefinite hiatus.
So why couldn't Goldman just wait? Wait until a new executive took over and maybe revived it?
Because in Hollywood, a project on hiatus often means it's buried forever. What's fascinating is that Goldman felt so strongly about retaining control, about seeing his book adapted faithfully, that he took a highly unusual and very expensive step.
What was that?
He personally bought back the film rights to his own novel with his own money.
Wow.
Yeah, this was an act of pure dedication, just keeping the dream alive against that kind of institutional failure.
And once he had the rights back, the book became this kind of white whale for Hollywood, right? It seemed genuinely impossible to adapt.
That's the critical point. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just about money, it was about the tone. In the years following that initial collapse, we were talking about some of the most prestigious, artistically ambitious names in cinema who were attached or tried to adapt it and just failed.
Who are we talking about?
The list reads like a film history textbook. You have Francois Truffaut, the iconic French New Wave director.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And Robert Redford, who was trying to break into directing at the time. Also Norman Jewison, who had huge hits like Fiddler on the Roof and Moonstruck.
Why do you think so many diverse, highly successful directors all failed to get it off the ground? Was it just funding or was it something else?
I think it was likely a combination. Truffaut, for instance, might have struggled with that necessary balance of high fantasy and low comedy. His work leaned more toward emotional realism.
Mm-hmm.
And Redford and Jewison were attempting to adapt a script that needed complex special effects, large foreign filming locations, and a very specific, quirky tone. It wasn't just finding a director.
It's about finding a vision.
A vision that respected the novel's metastructure, that shifting between the grandfather's reading and the action, while also convincing a studio to fund a huge fantasy film that just defies genre classification.
And we should mention a little piece of movie trivia here, where a very famous actor was interested in the lead role at one point.
Right. There was a moment when Christopher Reeve, fresh off his Superman success, expressed interest in playing Wesley.
The lead, yeah.
In one of these planned, ultimately unrealized adaptations. The star power was clearly there, but the necessary alignment of financing, vision, and timing, it just wasn't.
So enter Rob Reiner, the director who finally succeeded where all those industry giants couldn't. What was his connection to the story, and what changed to make it possible for him?
Well, Reiner was completely in love with the book. He had a deep personal connection to it. It had actually been a gift from his father, Carl Reiner.
Oh, that's incredible.
But crucially, when he approached the project in the mid-1980s, he wasn't just a fan. He had proven his modern filmmaking skill with two very successful, very distinct projects.
Right. This is Spinal Tap.
Exactly. His mockumentary success with This Is Spinal Tap in 1984, and then followed by the critically acclaimed and emotionally resonant coming-of-age film Stand By Me in 1986. That gave him the credibility he needed to attempt a tonal tightrope walk like The Princess Bride.
So he had that combination of, like you said, the comedic timing from Spinal Tap and the genuine heart and emotional maturity from Stand By Me.
Precisely. He could handle both the zany comedy aspects and the profound, sincere romance at the film's core. He actually recounts a conversation with a Paramount Pictures executive during the production of Stand By Me. He asked what he should do next, and he suggested The Princess Bride.
And what did they say?
He was told, essentially, no, Rob, you can't. That project is cursed. And that was the moment he realized the scope of the problem he was up against.
So how did he break the curse?
His breakthrough came through a critical, pre-existing relationship. He secured financial support from Norman Lear.
The same Norman Lear from his All in the Family days?
Absolutely. Reiner knew him intimately from his time as an actor on Lear's iconic show, and Lear had previously funded This Is Spinal Tap through his production company.
So there was trust there.
A lot of trust. With that guaranteed backing secured and the production to be distributed by 20th Century Fox, the gears finally started turning. And Reiner worked very, very closely with William Goldman, ensuring the screenplay captured the essence of the novel and that crucial meta-narrative structure.
And this leads to what I think is one of the most prophetic pieces of guidance in modern film history, something that directly explains the film's legacy today, coming from the head of Fox, Barry Diller.
Yes, and what's fascinating here is the long-term, almost philosophical vision applied to what is, at its heart, a business decision. Diller recognized this was not a film built for immediate blockbuster success.
Not alongside the big action or comedy flicks of 1987.
No. He instructed Reiner to create a film that would find greater success over time, and he explicitly referenced The Wizard of Oz as a model, a film that built its legacy over decades of repeat viewings and cultural saturation.
If they knew they weren't aiming for a huge opening weekend, how did that change their approach?
It altered the pressure points completely. They could focus entirely on crafting a meticulously perfect film rather than rushing for a summer release window or pandering to immediate trends. That patience proved absolutely critical.
It's incredible foresight.
It is. Diller's vision-making, a film designed to endure, to be rewatched for generations, is precisely what explains its later cult status and its long life in the home video and streaming markets. It far exceeded its modest initial box office haul. They were aiming for cultural permanence, and for studio head to articulate that ambition. It's just incredible.
And to achieve that kind of cultural permanence, you need a cast that embodies the characters so completely they become inseparable from the roles. The casting process for The Princess Bride is almost as legendary as the film itself.
It's the perfect synergy of casting, really, where the actors didn't just play the characters, they became the definitive visual representation of what readers had imagined for decades. Let's start with Wesley, the central figure of true love.
Cary Elwes.
Cary Elwes. He was identified pretty quickly by Reiner after seeing him in the historical drama Lady Jane.
But casting him wasn't straightforward, was it? Just because of logistics. He was quite literally on the other side of the Iron Curtain at the time.
He was. He was in West Berlin on the set of another film, Maschenka. And Rob Reiner was so determined that he flew across the Atlantic and then across a significant political divide just to meet Elwes in person, to confirm he was right for the role.
So they auditioned other actors, but they knew he was the one.
They did. Reiner and the casting director Jane Jenkins saw other actors, but they knew Elwes had that perfect blend of chivalry, humor, and the physical intensity needed for the Dread Pirate Roberts.
And the fact that Elwes had read the book as a child must have given him an immediate emotional connection to the material.
It absolutely did. He said he immediately associated himself with the character, though he never thought he would actually get the opportunity to play him. That pre-existing affection for the source material, which was shared by several cast members, gave the production a really authentic, almost reverent quality.
Now, for Buttercup, Robin Wright was cast quite late in the process, I think only about a week before filming began, after a pretty exhaustive search.
This was the role that proved the most challenging to fill. I mean, the list of people who auditioned is incredible. Uma Thurman, Meg Ryan, Sean Young, Courtney Cox.
Courtney Cox, really.
Yes. Alexandra Paul, and even Whoopi Goldberg auditioned for the role of Buttercup. They needed someone who could convey genuine innocence and conviction without, falling into melodrama.
And then Robin Wright, who was relatively unknown, just appears.
Her agent heard about the open casting call. She came in, and this leads to that legendary moment with William Goldman, that perfect cinematic flash that defined the casting choice.
Tell us that story.
So Jenkins, the casting director, she recalls the event vividly. Wright impressed Jenkins and Reiner, so they took her to meet William Goldman at his house. The doorbell rings, Reiner opens the door, and there's Robin Wright standing in a simple white summer dress with her long blonde hair.
Okay.
And because of the angle of the porch and the time of day, the sun hit her, giving her a literal halo effect.
You can't make that up.
You can't. And William Goldman, seeing this mythical figure standing across the room, simply said, "Well, that's what I wrote."
Wow. That's the perfect storybook affirmation of her casting.
As if the character had just stepped directly off the page. It tells you everything you need to know about capturing a specific literary vision. Sometimes you just have to wait for fate to deliver.
Now let's turn to the iconic duo of Vizzini and Fezzik. Wallace Shawn was chosen for Vizzini, but for a specific, almost architectural reason.
Right. Shawn was chosen specifically because of his diminutive size and his very distinctive voice. The intention was to create a visual contrast that emphasized the sheer, overwhelming scale of his henchman, Fezzik.
But he wasn't the first choice.
Interestingly, no. Before Shawn was confirmed, Reiner's first thought for the clever but easily frustrated Vizzini was Danny DeVito. He was quickly rising in stature for his sharp comedic timing.
And then there's André the Giant as Fezzik. The sources reveal his casting was an act of destiny, decades in the making, and a huge challenge to secure.
Absolutely. When Goldman was first trying to shop the novel in the early 1970s, André was his original dream casting choice for the role of the lovable giant.
But he wasn't available.
His relentless professional wrestling schedule made him unavailable. So Goldman's second choice at the time was an almost unknown, towering Austrian bodybuilder named Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Who was definitely not unknown by 1986.
Not at all. By 1986, he was one of the biggest film stars in the world, commanding massive fees and was completely unaffordable for the modest $16 million budget.
So they went back to André. But even that was a long shot, given his international fame and commitments.
It truly was a race against time. The production contacted the World Wrestling Federation. They were told that André was tied up with a massive $5 million wrestling match scheduled in Tokyo.
And it conflicted directly with the filming dates.
Directly. So they started auditioning other tall men, actors like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Ferrigno, Carol Stroiken. Even Liam Neeson auditioned.
Liam Neeson?
Yes. But the casting director determined he was too short for the role of Fezzik.
Too short for Fezzik. That has to be a unique casting director note.
It speaks to the commitment to Fezzik's physical presence, doesn't it? But near the end of the casting window, fate intervened again. The World Wrestling Federation notified the production that André's match in Tokyo had been canceled.
So his schedule was clear.
His schedule was entirely clear to play Fezzik. This was a critical convergence of timing, especially since André himself was hesitant to take the role. He was French, primarily a wrestler, not an actor, and he was unsure about the all-English dialogue.
We also must acknowledge the physical difficulties André faced during filming, especially because of his health.
It is vitally important to remember that André the Giant was suffering from chronic, debilitating pain from his acromegaly, a condition that contributed to his premature death.
And this pain presented significant, unique challenges on set.
It required serious accommodation and incredible technical work from the crew to maintain the illusion of his strength.
For instance, in that famous scene on the cliffs of Insanity where Wesley hangs on his back for the wrestling match, André was physically unable to support Cary Elwes' weight.
That's a powerful illustration of the commitment to the illusion. Cary Elwes was actually walking on a series of ramps that were built right up to André's back, hidden just below the camera line.
So for the close-ups, Ellis had to be perfectly in step with André.
Perfectly. While hiding the fact he was walking on this system of hidden ramps, only for the wider shots or specific flips was a stunt double required for André.
And the difficulties continued right up to the final scenes where Fezzik carries Buttercup away on horseback.
It's a similar story. In those final shots, Robin Wright was actually suspended by cables. André physically couldn't safely support her weight, even a relatively light person, while standing for long periods or moving on something as unstable as a horse.
The crew's creativity there is just amazing.
It shows a deep respect for the actor and a real commitment to getting that perfect visual.
What's truly moving, though, is how André felt about the experience itself, despite the continuous physical hardship.
Yes. Despite the constant grueling pain and the logistical difficulties he caused, André found his participation immensely gratifying. He felt that on the set, no one stared at him like a freak.
He was just treated as a fellow member of the cast.
A professional actor doing a job. And that acceptance speaks volumes about the familial atmosphere Rob Reiner cultivated and his ability to see past the physical condition to the man inside.
Speaking of that atmosphere, the preparation for the action sequences was intense, particularly the sword fight between Wesley and Inigo Montoya. That scene has become the gold standard for cinematic fencing.
It is incredible. And it's because the actors were required to perform almost all of their own combat choreography. The only exception was 2 highly complicated somersaults performed by stunt doubles.
And Cary Elwes and Mandy Patinkin were trained for how long?
3 solid weeks by the legendary fencing masters Bob Anderson and Peter Diamond.
And we should emphasize, these were not just ordinary fight choreographers. These were the masters who had trained the actors in the original Star Wars trilogy.
That's correct. They specifically knew how to teach actors to sell fantasy action. The training was meticulous. Elwes and Patinkin were taught to fence both left-handed and right-handed, mastering complex, rapid choreography that incorporated elements of French classical fencing.
And Anderson encouraged them to learn each other's full choreography.
Yes, which helped them anticipate movements, maintain safety, and ensure the entire sequence looked like a genuine, passionate duel, not just 2 actors waving swords. They spent almost all their off-camera time practicing. Remarkable dedication.
And then you have the brilliant improvisational freedom given to Billy Crystal and Carol Kane as Miracle Max and Valerie.
This is where Reiner's trust in comedic talent really comes in. They worked together before arriving in England to film, specifically developing a detailed backstory for Miracle Max and his wife, and establishing this clear, often irritable rapport.
And Reiner just let them go with it.
He respected their comedic instincts so much that he gave them carte blanche to improvise on set.
And that improvisation yielded some of the most quotable moments in the film.
Absolutely. The crew and cast reportedly struggled to keep a straight face during these scenes. Patinkin, who was lying mostly dead on the table during their sequences, had to bite his cheek and try to look away to keep from laughing.
Because his character was supposed to be lifeless.
Exactly. And Crystal reportedly improvised for long stretches, leading to famous lines that weren't in the original screenplay. This freedom gives those scenes a wonderful, manic energy that feels truly unique to the film.
And all of this collaboration was actively nurtured by Reiner's approach to the set environment. He wasn't just directing a movie, was he?
No, he was fostering a creative community. That's why he rented a large house near the English and Irish filming locations and regularly invited the cast over for meals and just lighthearted get-togethers. Many cast members credited this familial atmosphere with building the authentic camaraderie you see on screen. It makes the friendships like that between Fezzik and Inigo feel so genuine.
When we look at the film's immediate fate upon release, the success they envisioned didn't materialize overnight. It really reinforces Barry Diller's prediction.
No, it was the definition of a slow burn. The film premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival in September 1987 and went into wide release shortly after. But the box office results were initially quite modest. It grossed $30.8 million against a $16 million budget.
And just for context, why was $30 million considered modest in 1987?
Because that was the era of massive, high-concept blockbusters. Films like Fatal Attraction and Beverly Hills Cop 2, they were pulling in well over $100 million.
So a $30 million return, while profitable, didn't signal a cultural event.
No, it was a quiet, respectable success. And the main reason for this muted initial reception comes back to what Diller anticipated. The marketing department didn't know how to sell
They
it.
just didn't know what it was.
Fox was completely unsure how to describe the film's postmodern narrative, the unique blend of fairy tale, comedy, action, and romance, all wrapped up in a framed story.
So what did they do?
They ended up promoting it simply as a zany comedy, which created a confused identity. And furthermore, they released it without a custom audience trailer designed to explain the structure or the tone. That confusion likely dampened the immediate turnout. Audiences weren't sure if they were buying tickets for a kids' film or a parody.
And this is where Diller's prophetic instruction comes back into play, the belief that it would find its audience over time.
Precisely. Reiner was reportedly frustrated by the slow start, but Diller reassured him, saying the film had the bones of something that would be watched and rewatched across generations. That patience allowed the film to bypass the need for an explosive opening and instead rely on word of mouth.
Because while the box office numbers were quiet at first, the critical response was immediate and overwhelmingly positive.
Oh, yeah.
The critics and the initial audiences who did see it understood what they were watching. The film received generally favorable reviews and a rare A-plus cinema score from audiences who were surveyed upon exit.
And Sixel and Ebert loved it.
They gave it 2 thumbs up, and Time magazine listed it as one of the best of '87. Janet Maslin of the New York Times praised the flawless casting and the overall sweetness of the film.
But the film is ultimately defined by its central romantic theme, which seems to resonate on a deeper level than even the swashbuckling. The American critic Dalton Mullins highlighted this. He did. Mullins specifically praised the palpable chemistry between Cary Elwes and Robin Wright. He noted that the tension of the unspoken, denied love between Wesley and Buttercup is profound, especially before they finally profess their feelings and recognize each other. The film manages to be sweeping and sincere at the same time.
And the entire romantic philosophy of the film, Mullins argues, can be summed up in those 3 simple, unforgettable words.
As you wish.
As you wish.
That phrase, which Wesley uses repeatedly as a stand-in for I love you while he is the farm boy, defines his character and the film's romantic core. Mullins argued that this phrase sums up the film's philosophy of true devotion.
How so?
He was willing to suffer any hardship, brave any peril, and even sacrifice his identity for the woman he loves. It reinforces the central theme that true love must be fought for and proved through action, not just words.
What's fascinating about that phrase is that the emotional weight comes from dramatic irony. Buttercup doesn't know what it means until much later, but the audience does.
Right, and that reinforces the sincerity of Wesley's commitment from the very beginning. It creates an immediate connection between the character and the audience, which elevates it beyond a simple fairy tale.
Mullins found the reunion scenes particularly effective because of that.
He did.
Yeah.
Because the characters had been apart for so long and suffered so much, it makes the passionate, fought-for quality of their relationship stand out. He ultimately called it the greatest romantic fantasy adventure story, flawlessly representing love as something both arduous and, when earned, beautiful.
The slow burn truly started when the film moved past theaters and into the burgeoning home video market. That's where it became a genuine cult classic.
It was then, through cable TV, VHS, and later DVD, that the film found its true, dedicated audience, the viewers who would watch it repeatedly, sharing it with friends and family. It quickly became regarded as eminently quotable.
And this is the point where the film transitioned from being a movie to becoming a shared cultural language.
Cary Elwes noted on the film's 30th anniversary that fans still frequently approach him and quote lines.
And the character actors really feel that pervasive influence.
Absolutely. Elwes noted that Mandy Patinkin is often greeted with, "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." But it seems Wallace Shawn, who played Vizzini, had the most incessant experience.
Oh, really?
Elwes recalled that any time Shawn made even a minor public error, like dropping his keys, people would immediately shout, "Inconceivable," at him.
That phrase, used ironically within the film by Vizzini, becomes this ironic cultural tag for the actor who delivered it.
It speaks to how deeply these lines permeate culture and memory. And the film's legacy has been formally cemented with significant accolades over time, reflecting its growing importance across various fields.
It's impressive how much formal recognition a film that was marketed so poorly has accumulated over the decades.
It has received remarkable formal recognition across genres. In 2016, it was selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the United States National Film Registry.
Which means it's considered culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
Correct. It also won the 1988 Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation, a high honor in the science fiction and fantasy genre world, proving its strength as narrative art. It also won the People's Choice Award at the Toronto International Film Festival.
And the accolades continue, reflecting all the various genres it touches.
It was ranked number 88 on the American Film Institute's list of the 100 greatest film love stories. The film also won the Saturn Award for Best Fantasy Film and Best Costume Design. Even the screenplay, written by William Goldman, has been named the 84th best screenplay of all time by the Writers Guild of America.
That collective retrospective recognition confirms that the initial modest box office was a distribution failure, not a creative one.
Without a doubt.
The success of the film has led to an inevitable series of efforts to translate its magic to other media, showing its ever-expanding cultural footprint. The most persistent and perhaps most difficult adaptation attempt has been the stage musical.
The journey toward a musical has been as protracted and complicated as the film's original production history. It's another example of the project being cursed, perhaps.
So what was the first attempt?
Composer Adam Guettel and William Goldman were actively working on a musical adaptation back in 2006. And Guettel is a highly respected, Tony Award-winning composer, so the project had serious creative weight behind it.
But that effort ultimately collapsed, didn't it? Reportedly due to a financial dispute.
It was abandoned in February 2007 after Goldman reportedly demanded 75% of the author's share of the royalties.
Wow, 75%?
Yeah. Guettel had written both the music and the lyrics, a significant creative investment, and Goldman's demand effectively halted the effort over principal and profit split. It just shows how tightly Goldman held onto the intellectual property even decades later.
Then, a few years later, a major studio stepped in to revive the stage musical project.
Yes, in late 2013, Disney Theatrical Productions announced they would try adapting it into a stage musical, which was huge news given Disney's theatrical track record.
But it's still in development.
Still. Despite this commitment, the project has been incredibly slow to develop, encountering numerous roadblocks, as Rob Reiner himself acknowledged in 2016.
Why has this specific material proven so difficult to translate to the stage? Is it the meta-narrative or the fantasy elements?
It's likely both. The postmodern frame, the grandfather reading, is hard to translate physically without being clunky. And the tone is so unique. The musical numbers need to be funny, romantic, and slightly self-aware without becoming a full-blown parody.
A real tightrope walk.
A difficult one.
Yeah.
And the difficulty of finding the right creative team is evident in the high-profile composers who were approached but turned it down. People like Mark Shaman, Randy Newman, and even John Mayer. They clearly recognize the challenge.
So even today, the project is moving forward, but slowly.
As of 2019, Rick Elise and Bob Martin were confirmed to be writing the script, with David Yazbek composing the music and lyrics. He's the one who successfully adapted The Band's Visit and The Full Monty. So the effort continues, driven by the enduring appetite for the story.
Beyond a professional adaptation, the legacy is also maintained through unique tributes and celebrity-led revivals that underscore the film's intergenerational appeal.
Jason Reitman staged a famous live dramatic reading of the script back in 2011, which was a remarkable success. It really showcased the script's strength even without visual effects. That reading featured a star-studded cast including Paul Rudd as Wesley and Mindy Kaling as Buttercup.
And the continuity was strong, bringing back original cast members.
Crucially, yes. Original cast member Cary Elwes switched roles, appearing as the villain Prince Humperdinck, a great nod to his mastery of the material. And Fred Savage and Rob Reiner returned to reprise their original roles as the grandson and grandfather, perfectly anchoring the reading.
More recently, during the 2020 COVID-19 quarantine, the film saw an even more unique recreation, the home movie version.
Jason Reitman produced this fan-made recreation where a rotating ensemble of actors filmed themselves recreating scenes from their homes using simple props and costumes, all done remotely to raise money for the World Central Kitchen charity.
And it had official approval.
Full approval from Norman Lear and the estate of William Goldman. Even Mark Knopfler permitted the use of his original score music.
This sounds like the ultimate meta-tribute, demonstrating how adaptable the story frame is.
It is the ultimate example of the film's structural power. You can insert any cast members, no matter how famous, into the roles, and as long as that grandfather and grandson framework is maintained, the magic holds.
And there's a very poignant moment in that home movie recreation involving the original director's father, Carl Reiner.
It's just an incredible full-circle moment. The home movie recreation features the final performance of Carl Reiner, Rob Reiner's father, who played the grandfather in the very last scene.
The man who gave his son the book decades earlier.
Yes. He passed away just days after recording his part. The finished fan film was dedicated to his memory, bringing the story all the way back from the gift of a book to his final recorded performance of the character who reads that book.
And the cast reunited again in 2020 for a virtual live read-through that had a political fundraising dimension, showing the broad appeal of the material.
This was the Princess Bride reunion event, held in September 2020 to support Wisconsin Democrats. Most of the original cast participated. Elwes, Wright, Patinkin, Guest, Sean, Crystal, and Kane.
And Rob Reiner again played the grandfather.
He did. They brought in new celebrity talent for the roles of the absent cast, like Josh Gad as Fezzik and Whoopi Goldberg as the ancient Boer.
And this event was a massive fundraising success.
It was. Over 110,000 viewers donated at least $1 to view the live stream event, making it an incredible win for the organizers. It illustrates how the film's universal message of love, loyalty, and adventure transcends traditional entertainment to become a highly effective cultural tool.
The Princess Bride's influence stretches into other modern media as well, gaming and other feature films.
We see Robin Wright directly referencing her role in the 2013 live-action animated film The Congress. She plays a version of herself as a digitally cloned actress who famously starred in The Princess Bride.
And there's been a steady stream of gaming adaptations.
Ever since 1988, really. Board games based on specific scenes, like A Battle of Wits and Storming the Castle. A complex, modern pinball FX table was even released in 2024.
And of course, the homage that placed the story frame into an entirely different action movie context, providing a meta-narrative for a new generation.
That would be the 2018 PG-13 version of Deadpool 2, titled Once Upon a Deadpool. Fred Savage reprised his iconic role as the grandson, perfectly positioned in the bed, complete with the famous headboard.
And Deadpool reads him the story.
Right. The foul-mouthed character, Deadpool, takes the role of the narrator, reading the Deadpool 2 story to him in the familiar bedtime setting and skipping over the R-rated adult parts. It's the highest possible form of tribute, using the original film's structure to filter a new, otherwise unrelated story.
And perhaps the most direct celebration of its, quote, ability. A permanent-themed bar opened in Chicago in 2020.
Called As You Wish, offering 16 themed cocktails. That truly signals a film's elevation into cultural touchstone territory. It's moved beyond cinema and into physical community space.
Given all this enduring love and the film's certified status as a classic, it is almost, well, inconceivable that anyone would suggest remaking it.
To borrow a line, yes. Yet that is exactly what happened a few years ago, sparking a genuine cultural outcry.
The controversy erupted in 2019 following a biographical article about Norman Lear.
Right. Sony Pictures Entertainment CEO Tony Vinciquerra, speaking about the enduring value of Lear's classic works, mentioned that very famous people whose names I won't use, but they want to redo The Princess Bride.
And I imagine the internet had some thoughts on that.
Oh, it did. The reaction from the public was immediate, unified, and fiercely negative. Social media instantly lit up with outrage, with fans using the film's own language to protest the idea of a remake.
Calling it inconceivable.
Exactly. Asserting it was inconceivable and that the suggestion was mostly dead.
The public outcry quickly drew the attention of the original cast, who stepped up to publicly defend the film's untouchable status.
Cary Elwes, who played Wesley, provided the perfect summarizing quote on social media, which really encapsulates the film's underlying ethos and why it is so beloved.
What did he say?
He said, "There's a shortage of perfect movies in this world. It would be a pity to damage this one." It was a simple statement that resonated so profoundly, framing the film not just as entertainment, but as an artifact of perfection.
And Christopher Guest's wife, Jamie Lee Curtis, also spoke out.
Forcefully. She stated simply that there is only one The Princess Bride. That unified sentiment from the creators echoing the feeling of the audience seems to have put the issue to rest for now.
It demonstrates that the film isn't just a piece of intellectual property to be exploited.
It's a protected cultural object. The investment in character, heart, and perfect execution, rooted in Barry Diller's original vision, resulted in a movie so beloved, so perfectly cast, and so meticulously produced that the public now actively guards its perfection. It proves that the investment in quality was more valuable than any immediate box office return.
So, what does this all mean when we look back at the legacy of The Princess Bride? We started by saying we should focus on the history and the culture, not just the fairy tale plot. The history shows a film that succeeded against impossible odds.
After years of failure, yes. And it found the perfect cast despite incredible logistical hurdles, like André the Giant's condition and his wrestling schedule.
And the legacy shows a film whose enduring quality is rooted in genuine heart, perfect execution, and a brilliant self-referential story structure.
That grandfather reading the book. That frame allows it to be continuously rediscovered and integrated into new formats. It proves that a film doesn't need to be an immediate blockbuster to have a monumental cultural effect. It just needs that foundational perfection that makes it eternally quotable and endlessly shareable. So for you to consider, which other seemingly simple stories possess that unique meta-narrative structure, that story within a story, that allows them to continuously adapt and resonate across changing media platforms and generations. This structural quality is what makes The Princess Bride a true cinematic anomaly that is still inspiring creative work today.
Thanks for listening.